Just as soon as I finished recording and rendering the video earlier today, wham! Huge news from Upland. So I absolutely needed to get a second video out today because this is some seriously cool stuff and we gotta get it covered. Hey there, John Henry here, SSFTG. Welcome to the video again, the second one for the day. If it's your first time here, welcome my friend. I hope you enjoy the content and I earn your like and subscription. So first things first, let's get the announcement number one out of the way. BE Shops and the beta update and all of that is coming, and with USD Listings and all of that. And we talked about that in the earlier video today. I'll get that link up in the top corner for you. One thing that really jumped out though, because this isn't new news, but one thing that really jumped out is the bottom down here, right? In the way that it was worded, because this is really kind of interesting. At the end of it, they talk about with selling listings on behalf of other players and ventures with venture dues and all of that, and that opens the door for some really exciting stuff like, oh, I don't know, virtual NFT realty businesses, just to name a small one. That by itself is really cool, but I mean, let's be honest here. We know why we're here and why we're making the second video today in the first place. Peer-to-peer UPX transfers are on the horizon, and holy crap, this is huge. I mean, what? P2P UPX transfers are coming to Upland. They're set to launch today, and depending on when this video comes out in relation to that launch time, they may have already had it they may have already had it active for a couple hours. The UPX transfers will allow players to launch so many things, it's absolutely insane. The key is the wording here, because it does specify in-game activities, okay? So it does specify game-related services and basically anything that doesn't involve an exchange of currency. So let's break this down for an incredibly obvious one that, as far as a business model, immediately jumped to mind and something that I'm going to have to make a new video on as far as business models are, and that's builders. Most folks don't have a ton of Spark laying around. The Spark that most people have, they've gotten from maybe a few purchases here or there, or generally it's from leveling up. And most of their buildings are going to take like 50 to 100 plus days, some are like over a year to complete. We could have a situation where we could rent Spark out. Now, we could rent Spark before via Discord, but it was a massively convoluted system because, well, frankly, we didn't have a way to just easily transfer UPX. Well, guess what? Now we can very easily rent out Spark and be compensated for it as a building group for those that are heavily invested in Spark as their investment avenue. Imagine for a second that there aren't necessarily people invested in properties per se, but they're invested in Spark and are heavily hunting for that specifically for their business model. Renting it out for UPX and those types of things where they're quoting for bidders, just like in the real world. How awesome is that? So, of course, we have to understand how this works and, just so that we do things properly from the get-go. First off, you can initiate an UPX transfer by searching for another player's profile with the player search feature. You may not have noticed this, or maybe you did see it pop up here, but in the little three buttons down here, there's a new icon, player search. Now, it doesn't function at the time of recording this, but when this comes out, hopefully this will be working by then, and you'll be able to search for the player's name within there. Once you've located your target player, you just click Send UPX and choose the amount and you're ready to rock and roll. It's simple, easy, straight to the point, perfect. There are a few caveats and restrictions, right? So we've got to cover the bases here to make sure that we have all of the info, all of the ins and outs. First off, you can initiate those UPX transfers like we talked about. You just search a player's name, you target them, you send it XYZ. But along with that, UPX transfers are only available to players that are Uplander status and above, meaning that your net worth has to be over 10,000 UPX. It's not really a huge deal. It's only $10 if you were to equate it to USD, but this isn't an option unless you are Uplander or above. And once you reach Uplander status, you'll be able to transfer UPX after identity verification. There's a whole second portion just on identity verification that goes over here, and that's all done through, which I don't think this is a shock at all, their partner with Tilia. That's who they do all the USD withdrawals with in the first place, and I'm sure we're going to see Tilia be used for a lot of different things. If you try to do it without verification, it's just going to fail and prompt you to complete the verification anyway, so that's step number one. Then we go into the next part, which, there are some limits and cooldowns on these UPX transfers that we have to know about too. UPX that you've earned when you're, just selling properties in regular marketplace actions, that's not subject to any kind of cooldown or anything, right? But as far as UPX that you purchased from the store, that's a 60-day cooldown period before you can actually transfer that. So the example they use is that if a player has 100,000 UPX in their account, but 50,000 UPX was purchased within the last 60 days, they can only transfer a maximum of 50,000. So kind of something to keep in mind. And they also go over the additional minimums of an UPX as far as a player transfer, and that's 20 UPX. It's actually incredibly small as far as a minimum, which is kind of cool. Of course, as with every major marketplace action, or really any action within game, there are fees. There's always fees. It's just part of crypto as a whole, and it's part of Upland. The nice thing with fees are that they're transparent. They're right up in front so that there's nothing hidden or hiding away that you find out later on. Of course, just like when you buy a property or sell a property or do anything else, it's a 5% fee. Now, in terms of a transfer, it's a total fee of 10%, but 5% is paid by the sender and 5% is paid by the receiver, right? So the example that they use here is if I were to send 1,000 UPX to my friend, I would pay 1,050 UPX to get that transfer going. Player B, my friend, would receive 950 UPX. They pay 5%. So I'm paying 1,050, they're receiving 950. The overall transfer medium was 1,000 in between, just so you can see how that operates. UPX transfers will, of course, have 2FA and Captcha enabled, which is a nice little addition to the peace of mind factor. Keep in mind that this is not the full launch, right? It's a testing phase of the pilot program before the full launch later on. That's highlighted down here. So it is, keep in mind, there will be some changes. There'll be things that will be modified along the way. These are by no means hard set in stone rules and numbers. These can easily be modified depending on how everything turns out. But either way, the fact that they're working on it in the first place is amazing, and I am super pumped to see this coming into the Upland metaverse. These are exactly the kinds of things that Upland needs to keep the growth parabolic on that beautiful 45-degree angle that we love seeing. This makes me even more excited for the metaverse in Upland, and my mind hasn't stopped with all of the different ideas around this. There are going to be more videos definitely coming out on the topic. If you aren't in Upland yet, this just opened the door to an entire new marketplace of businesses and business models. If you thought LA and collections was good timing, wow, this is a whole nother level. Make sure to click the referral link in the description to get you in Upland with some starting UPX, as well as access to the massive 50% bonus on your first UPX purchase if you decide to invest in the game. Remember that bonus has a max of 50,000 UPX and only works if you click the link to register in the first place, so don't miss out on that easy UPX and snag the link before you forget it. It seems like when we were questioning what's next for Upland, blammo, we have our answer. Meta gigs are upon us, and its entire new business model industry has kind of come along with it. What business models are you most excited about with this announcement? Have any come to mind, or maybe one that you've been waiting for and you just needed this to push it over the edge? Drop them in the comments. I always love hearing from you. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.